got here on time. So thank you everybody for joining us this morning. I hope everybody had a nice Easter weekend, and my phone's ringing now. Just shut that off. Hope everybody had a nice Easter weekend, was able to spend some time with your family in one form or another. I know it's been a challenge for me. Neither of my kids live at home anymore, so family time has taken on a new meaning. And it looks like I'm starting to freeze a little bit. So Adam, do you want to do the ground rules just because I'm freezing?
Sure, no problem, Sheila. So just a quick kind of couple of things before we get going. So while Bob is speaking, we will have everyone muted just to kind of keep the process nice and easy. We will be recording this, so if you do have any personal privacy concerns or anything, just feel free to either cancel your video or non-display your name or what have you. In terms of the layout, so Bob's going to speak for a while. I think from what he's saying, he's going to have some periods where you can ask questions in between, so feel free to put your questions in the chat. And then what we'll do is at the end, we'll go through more questions, and we'll just kind of make sure to do our best to get through all of them. And then also, just for privacy and security for Zoom, we will be locking the meeting in a couple minutes or so, just so we don't have any unnecessary intruders joining us. So Sheila, I don't know if you want to welcome Bob before he gets going.
Of course I do. So Bob, thank you so much for taking the time today. I hope I'm not too lagged here. Bob's been a great supporter and partner in the Durham business community for a long time, and I know my team's had the pleasure of working one-on-one with them. So I hope you all get a lot of advice and take what you can from Bob's expertise today.
Thank you very much, Sheila and Adam. Most appreciated, and welcome everybody. As those of you who don't know me, I'm a huge supporter of the Durham region. I traveled all across North America for the better part of 20 years in my sales career, training companies from Texas down through Florida, up through the States, out to California, and all across Canada. And in 2008, when I left corporate business and started B2B sales connections, I said there was one thing specific that I was going to do, and that was I was no longer going to drive west of White's Road. So I spent so many years traveling around North America that I said I wasn't going to go west of White's Road. And the funny thing was, everyone in the business community said, Bob, if you try to do that, you are going to starve. You cannot find enough business out in the Durham region to keep your business going. Well, the great news is I didn't starve. You can't really see the belly, but it's bigger than it should be because there is food going into that. My focus has always been on niche marketing, and whether your niche is your industry that you're in, or whether the niche is the territory that you fix and work within, that's one of the most strongest things you can do. And so by saying that going west of White's Road, it forced me to really focus on what was happening in Ajax, Pickering, Whitby, Oshawa, Bowmanville, Clarington. I would rather go to Peterborough and Lindsay and Port Hope and Cobourg than go over to the west end of Toronto. And so by doing that focus, it ended up really helping my business grow and becoming one of the known names out in this field and working here. So the big change was what happened on March 13th. And I like to use March 13th as a date because Friday the 13th is kind of when this all started to happen. I was doing an event the morning of Friday the 13th. The company that I was speaking at lunchtime, they took a lunch break for the end of the event. All the employees were together. The president of the company walked in at 1 o'clock and said, pack up, go home, stay home. And that same weekend, over the weekend of the 14th and the 15th, I had about 5 trade shows, conferences that I was supposed to be speaking at in May, June, were coming up that were already booked in, and the conferences came back and said, conferences are being canceled. And so all of a sudden for myself, that was a huge hit to my business, as well as I had probably another 10 training programs at client locations booked for later in March, April, May, and into June. And all of those immediately dried up when the companies came back and just said, what's happening? So, you may be thinking this, your customers were in a panic. A lot of times in our industries, our customers have disappeared. If we've got staff members, they're wondering, what's it mean at 2 months out? Am I going to have a job? Can our company come back? And the big one that I keep hearing right now is I'm afraid to push anything out. I don't want to be talking to my audience because I'm afraid I'm going to offend somebody. Looks like I'm pushing my marketing out there, and people are going to think that I'm just taking advantage of a situation. And I don't want to do that. So a lot of companies are going completely dark with their marketing. They don't want to be seen as being insensitive or opportunistic. So they're not doing anything. And the question that I started getting asked right after the 16th, 17th, 18th, were companies coming back and saying, what do we do? And what we do is we now have to get ourselves moving forward in the new reality. And so I just want to bring up a few facts and figures to let you guys know right up front. I lived through the recession of 2008. I actually started my business at the height of the 2008 recession. So not only was I going to focus only on the Durham region, there was a recession hitting Canada. And I remember you guys, some of you remember the recession of 2004. Some of you remember the recession of 97. Now, it happens all the time. This one's probably the biggest one we've seen in terms of crisis. It's shut so many things down where the recession took businesses away before. They didn't shut things down like they are. But what it's really important to remember, and I pulled up some little stats here for you, it's that companies that continue to market during an economic decline are the ones that bounce back the fastest. So if you have search engine optimization, organic search, keywords, if you do website development, if you're doing anything in sales and marketing right now and you're worried about it, then you've got to be thinking not about how bad things are going to get, but you've got to go back to your clients and start telling them that this is not the time to go dark. You cannot stop. You've got to keep moving forward. And I'm going to talk about what you can do so you don't seem insensitive, so you don't look like you're being opportunistic here. But we've got to do that. So when that recession comes, the companies that continue to market, to continue to get out in front of people, let them know their brand is there, let them know what their brand is doing for them, they're the ones who brand recognition continues and you bounce back faster. The companies that are shutting down and disappearing, they're the ones, if they're going dark now, and they go dark for, let's say, March, April, May into June, it's going to take them 6 months to get back at it. So think about it. What can I continue to do? Now, I don't mean you're pushing your marketing message out there. We need to build value for our clients to move forward. So here's a little stat, and this is not just in times of crisis or recession. This is a stat that has been proven out time and time again. About 3% of your target market is looking for your solution at any given time. And this number, some say it's about 2, some say it's as high as 5. But if you think about it, 3% of your target market is looking. So why is that important? It's important because a lot of times as business owners, we focus only on the buyer who is ready today to buy our product or our service. 7% will show interest in your product or service over the next 3 to 6 months. So these are the ones that you don't have to interrupt marketing today. You just get in front of them and start talking to them. So when they are thinking about buying, you're in front of them and they know who you are. The big number is 50% might be interested in the future. So we put these three numbers together. 60% of your target market would be interested in you over the course of the next year. But a lot of the marketing that we do, especially if our marketing from our company right now is phone calls, door-to-door, email campaigns where we're pushing information out, we're usually targeting that immediate marketplace, and we're not thinking about the long-term effects. What I'm saying to you today is, if there's a target market that you are in and they are buying, so if you're selling hand sanitizers and masks and all those sorts of things, that your target market is buying big right now. But most of us are probably in an industry or a business where our target market is not buying from us. So think about that 60% of your market that we still need to be engaging, and we need to be engaging regularly to keep top of mind brand awareness. Now, here's another number. 40% will not be interested in you or your company or your solution. If we had a poll, I'd ask for a poll right now, but we'll just, you can do a show of hands or just think about this yourself. How many of you are Android users versus Apple users? So if you're thinking about that, Adam, are you an Android or an Apple user?
I'm an Apple user.
Okay, right. So what are the chances of me getting you to switch over to Android?
Slim.
Yeah, slim to none, exactly. So think about, in just about any market out there, there are people who are just not interested. If you sell cars and you sell Toyota and you're a GM buyer, you're not going to go looking at Toyota probably. You're going to keep looking at GM. If you have an interest in one product over another, you may have a bias already towards that. So don't worry about that. And so when we get into people talking about newsletters and people opting out or unsubscribing, that is the 40% that is saying, I don't care. But a lot of people, when I talk about these sorts of things, they're like, oh my God, people unsubscribe from my newsletter. Or people said, don't send me any more email messages. Don't get worried about that. Say thank you. Because what they've done is they've said, you are not a product that I'm interested in. So don't waste your time chasing after me, because you are just wasting your time. Let's look at who are those 60% of the market who are interested in you at any given time. So let's also talk about, are you an essential business or are you a non-essential business? So if you're essential, you're that hunter. You're going out now looking for people who can use your products or services. If you're a non-essential, I want you planting the seeds for what's going to happen in the next 30, 60, 90 days out to 6 months. So a lot of what my business has been doing, and if you go to our website, b2bsalesconnections.com, you'll see that our website is all about farming. We are planting seeds. We have giveaways all over our website, free offers, free products, free services, because we want people to keep picking up our breadcrumbs or our seeds and thinking about us for the future. So if you're essential, you've got to be out there hunting now. You're sending out emails, you're making phone calls, you're connecting with buyers that you know need your product or service. If you're not, if you're in real estate, what can you do in real estate now to plant the seeds for someone to come to you in the future? So how do we do it? We've got a couple of different ways. One is knowing your ideal customer. And this is a big pet peeve that I had. I was just on a conference call before this one, and a couple of people were on there, and it was the old, I can sell to anyone. Yes, you can try to sell to anyone, but anyone is not a market. Anyone is not an ideal customer. You waste too much time, you waste too much money trying to put your marketing everywhere. Focus on where you're good and focus on who that ideal customer is. And then you focus all your emails, your LinkedIn messages, your online events, your phone calls at that person, because then your message resonates with them. And then the same thing with blogs and articles and videos and ebooks and reports. You talk about that ideal client at all times. So what does that mean? I've got a client that I'm working with right now, and she is a specialist in human resources. And as soon as everything started shutting down the first week of March 15th thereon, she said, Bob, nobody wants to talk to me because I'm a human resources specialist and I help companies in their hiring practices, their policies, and all that. Well, because she's already got a direct line into the HR departments, we quickly talked about what she could help them do now in terms of setting up home offices. What do they need to know about technology? What are the insurance requirements? If I'm sitting in my home office working for a major company, Are there challenges that that company doesn't know about? If I go online, and we all know, but most of us know about what happened to Zoom last week, they had security breach after security breach after security breach. So what happens if your company has a security breach because all your employees are on Zoom? So her pivot very quickly became, how can I help HR departments understand what working from home, the legal implications, and just the social implications of people at home. And she started pushing out messages, and within the first 3 or 4 days, she had her clients coming back to her and saying, oh my God, I never thought about that, help me. So what is it your client's not thinking about that you can do right now to help them? So don't think about the features and benefits of what your solutions are. Think about what your clients need to do in order to make a change. And I'm going to stop right here for a second. Adam, do you have any questions that are coming up? Gives me a water break too.
So just a reminder to everyone, if you do have any questions, please just type them in the chat, and we'll make sure Bob can get to those. But not at the moment though, right now, Bob.
Okay, good. So how do we do that? We get you to think about the number one problem that your clients are having right now. So let's say you're in real estate. There are still people who are going to have to move. They're planning to move. There are people who may have bought a house and now they're what do I do with the bank? Because my mortgage was set up when I had a job and all these things were happening. So what's the number one problem that your client is having right now? And then what's that impact on the client? So if I were to think about Clarington Board of Trade as a prime example, what's the problem that Board of Trade clients are having right now? Well, they can't do networking. You're not doing any face-to-face networking. You can't go out and see people. And the Board of Trade clients are going, oh my gosh, the world's falling down. What do we do? So what's the impact for a client? The impact is they're unsure, they're stressed, they don't know what to do moving forward, they don't know where to get information. So what can the Board of Trade do? Well, I've seen what you guys are doing. You're putting out documents that are coming out from the federal government on how to find money for your business, employee payroll information, all those things that you guys are doing to bring the information together, then disseminate it out to all of your members. So the outcome is you're helping your members understand and navigate the situation as it is right now. So it makes you become a very important part of the marketplace because of what you're doing for the marketplace. So every company out there can do the same thing. Think about the problem your client's got, what that impact is on the problem, and what's the outcome if you can help them do that. So if I go to a client, go back to my human resources client, Amy, her problem was she lost all of her customers overnight. The impact is it was devastating for her. She was losing her income. But by actually identifying what the problem her clients were having was all of a sudden everyone's working from home and these corporations don't know how to deal with that. The impact was the senior people in these companies are going, well, what do we do? What don't we know? How do we help these people work from home? And so the outcome was she created documents to help them understand what working from home was best practices. So think about what you could do, and if anybody wants a copy of this, more than happy to send them out. And think about 3 different things. Don't put a shopping list. People love that. They want to put a shopping list of absolutely every single thing that they can do. And when they do that, the client just gets really confused. Think about the top 3 things that are impacting your client now. What's the impact and what's the outcome you can help them get to? And then once you've done that, how are they currently dealing with the problem? So if you think about back to the HR companies, they were like, we don't know. What do we do? We're lost. And so what she did is she put together documents. If you solve this problem, this is what it's going to mean for you. So that's what I want you to look at. Think about how do you solve their problem right now. So if it's real estate, put out information on how to buy and sell right now. Things you need to know. I saw Ursula is on from in banking. So what can you do to help your clients in banking? Because we're all frustrated, we're all concerned. So another thing to make sure is when you're sending these messages or creating these documents, think about it as being a problem solver as opposed to gaining something. So it's not you're going to help them make more money, it's going to stop them from losing money. Right? People are more concerned about fixing problems than they are with getting the gains. That's just a quick little aside there I want to throw in there. So, quick one, old school selling. Okay. I have had a number of clients over the last 8 years who were convinced the only way they could sell was face-to-face. They have to be out in front of every single customer because they can't get people to know, like, and trust them unless they do that. And I actually like this because the Harvard Business Review did a huge study, and they come back and they said, basically, it's the leadership of most companies that have a bias against what we call inside sales. They believe you can only sell to somebody if you can get out and see them, right? So I want people to start thinking about rejecting some of these old school tactics. You can go beyond face-to-face selling, knocking on doors, dropping in to see somebody. Also, thinking about inside sales is not telemarketing. It's not the duct cleaner that calls you at 6 o'clock when you're sitting down having dinner and says, "Hi, I want to clean your ducts." That's not what this is all about. This is about you targeting the right market with the right message to show them how you can help solve some problems, right? A lot of old school salespeople think you've got to build that relationship in person. And I love to use the analogy of online dating. I'm not asking anybody, I'm not judging anybody, but with online dating, how many people have gone from a couple of quick messages back and forth to full-scale blown relationships? It happens because you can build strong relationships online and doing that. And matter of fact, if you think about people who are out in the field, about 60% of their time is still spent in their office closing deals, making phone calls, sending emails. But here's an important one. The average cost of that outside sale is about $275 or more. So for me to go out and meet a client, it's going to cost me about $300. So I want to give you an example of a client I've been working with for about 3 years now. They had 25 salespeople across Ontario, and those salespeople were all outside salespeople. They went out and knocked on doors and met with business owners. Their average sale was under $500, and they couldn't figure out why their profit margins were terrible. Well, it was because it was costing as much to make the sale as they were making in profit on the sale. And so we switched them from 25 outside salespeople to 5 major account reps that were outside, dealing with only McDonald's and Loblaws and the really big companies. And they moved to 10 inside salespeople doing phone calls, emails, blogging, and marketing. And their sales actually over the next 2 years almost doubled because they were so focused on getting in front of their clients on a much more effective basis. So I'm going to show you how we can do that. A couple other things. Inside sales are growing in popularity. It's about 45% of the US sales force, according to the most recent studies. Most salespeople now, almost 45%, are inside. So there's still a few outside. But here's a big number. People go, "Oh, well, Bob, you know, that's okay if you sell transactional small things." Right? Many companies that do $30,000 sales or less will do it completely over the phone or using emails and webinars. And I've got a client in Mississauga right now. I never go see them. All my work with them is on the internet, and all my coaching, all my training sessions. But they sell products that are priced from $20,000 to $50,000, and they never, ever visit a client. The only time they visit a client is when the product starts to get into the $100,000 range. So when they're dealing with their clients would include Canadian Tire, Bell Canada, Canada Post is a big client of theirs. They only go out when they know it's going to be a massive account. So thinking about that, I know a lot of us think, well, you know, I've got to go see somebody. You don't have to go see somebody. Personally, I very seldom see clients unless, and I've got a dollar value at our company, and if a company's spending less than $5,000, it's not worth a trip. It's only if they're over a certain dollar value. So think about that. Do you really need to go out and see people? Another big thing about doing this is you're about 2 to 3 times more productive when you're doing it from your office constantly, because you're not wasting time in travel. A couple other stats I'll just quickly throw up there. A lot of decision makers take appointments and attend online events, never met a salesperson. And customers are actually in favor of inside sales because they don't feel like they're having such an wasting as much time because someone has to come and see them. They have to sit down to a meeting. How difficult is it for me to say, hey, Sheila, let's have a phone call. Sheila, if you got 10 minutes, we'll just pull up the phone, have a quick chat. And whether Sheila decides that's going to turn into a 15-minute or a 20-minute or a half-hour phone call, that's up to her. But when I reach out to somebody the first time, I only ask for 7 to 10 minutes. And at the end of that 7 to 10 minutes, I will say, well, this has been great. Thank you very much. And I let them decide whether what I've said is of value enough that they want to continue the conversation. All right. So, Adam, just to shake your head, yes or no, any questions?
Yeah, we have a few here, Bob.
Okay, go ahead.
So our first question is, so I guess in dealing with prospects, when would you say it's time to walk away when you realize you don't have the sale?
Okay, that's a really good question. The challenge is always the maybes. There's people will say yes, people will say no, but what happens is as sales reps, we get caught up with the maybe person, right? So one of the things that I do, and you guys remember that from the training we did right at the Board of Trade for you guys last year, is giving permission for a client to say no right up front. So what I would do is I'd say, Adam, this has been, we've been talking about sales training for the Board of Trade. What I want you to do, Adam, is this. I want you to be either confident that you feel this is right for the Board of Trade, and if it is, then the answer is yes. But I also, Adam, if you don't think that this is the right program, I'm not the right person to do it, I want you to be comfortable in saying no. Don't think you're doing me a favor and you a favor by saying, I need to think about it. Because what you're actually doing, when I get that I need to think about it, and this has been my philosophy for probably 20 years, is when somebody says I need to think about it, it's usually, I don't get you, I'm not interested, but I'm afraid to say no, so I'm going to be polite and say, give me some time. So instead of making them say, I don't want to date with you tonight because I'm washing my hair, you want them to say, I don't want to date with you tonight because I don't see a fit. And so by asking the client, once you start the conversation with them, give them permission. There are 2 answers, Adam, I'd like to have. Yes, you think this is a good idea. It's in the right price range. We should move forward with it. No, you don't think I'm a fit. You don't think this is a good idea. Let's not move forward with it. But the maybes, you just spend a lot of time, Adam, wasting your time thinking about it. And I'm kind of going, what's the chance here? So give them permission to say yes or no and ask them to not say maybe. So that's
no, and that's a great tip, Bob, because I know that's one thing, probably the biggest takeaway I had after our seminar that you did. Because I think the biggest thing is kind of knowing where you stand with either the prospect or,
right.
Just so, like you said, you're not kind of wasting either your time or their time. So,
yeah. And we're afraid of the no. That's the big thing, is we're afraid of hearing no. And so we waste all this time on a no that we just haven't heard. So let it happen.
Okay. So next question comes from Ron. So he's just saying kind of how do we still work with our clients while also maintaining a sense of sensitivity? We're all dealing with tough times. We have businesses that are closed. So how do we get around that, where we still want to work with the prospect, work with the potential client, but still be very sensitive to what's happening?
So going back to the slide about what it is that you do in terms of your impact, you've really got to think about that. So if I were to call up you guys right now at the Board of Trade and say, Sheila, let's have a sales training course right now. You'd probably be going, whoa, Bob, we've got so many things on the go here that we don't know what we're doing. Where if I changed the way I did, I said, Sheila, you've got everyone working from home right now. What are some of the challenges they're having in dealing with their clients? And I get Sheila to talk about what her problems are. And if she starts saying, well, we really don't know how to reach out to them and we're not sure what we should be doing, then that could lead us into a conversation of, well, what about some ideas about them doing this or doing that? So I could drop some breadcrumbs and have Sheila then be thinking, yeah, Bob, you know what, maybe we should do something now. So that's what I did with my clients that were all had booked sales time where I was actually going to go out and do training sessions. They had booked those training sessions. I went back to them and I said, I can appreciate 100% we have shut down those training sessions. Now, Adam, what are you doing with your team while this is happening? Well, so the owner comes back and said, well, the team's at home and they're not doing much. I said, well, do you see this as a good time then that we could change to online training and we would capitalize on their downtime to get in front of new messaging and put together some programs to get in front of their clients and keep themselves top of mind. And out of 6 companies that had booked physical training at their sites, 5 switched over to online programs. It was just like that. So that's a really good question is what can you do? Think about it, but you don't want to be just calling up and saying, hey, Adam, it's Bob calling. I just want to check in.
Oh, sorry, Bob. So I was just going to say, so a secondary maybe follow-up to that is, so I guess we're speaking a lot B2B. So how about in a situation where it's B2C? So in a situation where a business, a small business in Clarington, and their primary target market is customers. So how about in that situation?
Can you tell me what the product would be?
So let's say jewelry.
Okay, right. So there are going to be some areas that it's going to be very, very difficult. So I'm not buying jewelry now. I'm not doing that. But what could you do to keep yourself still top of mind? So maybe because you're a B2C company, you get involved in pushing out the fact that you're volunteering at the food bank, that what is your company doing in the community to help with the community at this time? How many companies out there have bought surgical gloves and masks and delivered them to Lake Ridge Health or to one of the other facilities? So there's other things you can do that are not even related to what the product is you sell, but it's just showing that you're doing work in the community to help out. How many daycares switched over to running children's programs online? Yeah. So just thinking about what it is, it's top of mind. You want to stay top of mind. So when you come out of this, people are going, oh yeah, remember what you guys did then? So think about that.
And I guess I'll put a CBOT plug in there in that for any businesses that are doing those types of things in the community, definitely please let us know, because those are the stories that we do want to be sharing right now as we unify as a community. So definitely please share that with us.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe we'll just do one more question, Bob, and then we'll kind of keep on rolling. So in terms of, you talked about information that services, even like CBOT, we have a lot of information that we're giving out to our clients, to businesses, to the community. What's too much? Because we want to be valuable and we want to share good information, but at what point are people saying, okay, we're tired of hearing from you?
Okay, really, really good question. And it comes back to that 60-40 rule about the 40% who never want to do business with you. For my business, we are creating one piece of information every single day, and we're putting one major piece of information, so like a report or a blog post about something that we think is really relevant to what's happening now, once a week. And we're pushing that out on a weekly basis. Now, part of that too is you're not pushing it out as an email 20 times a week or 10 times a week or a couple times a week. What you are doing is, if you've got a newsletter and you do a newsletter now every month, maybe you switch it to every 2 weeks. But make sure the content is really, really valid, and it's providing value to your customers in that content. You're now also going to push out information on LinkedIn and on Facebook. So you can push that out as much as you want, because whether they look at it or not, or subscribe to it or unsubscribe, that's up to them. But just don't stop putting information in front of people. So as I said, for my company, it's something every single day, something major once a week. But we're putting stuff up on LinkedIn on a daily basis. And whether people like it or not, they see it. If the title catches them, they read it. If they see it and the title doesn't catch them, they just let it go right on past. Now it's a good point though, Adam, because it brings us right into the next piece of it. And I just want to quickly push this out. I'm going to switch over to the next slide. Okay. So I use what I call a 246 lead generation system. And I call it a 246 because there's on average 246 business days in a year. So if you send out to new clients, now this is not your current database, this is not your social media, this is 10 new messages to 10 new people on a daily basis. That's about 500 prospects on a month that you're reaching out to. And if you can turn 10% of those into customers, you're looking at about 50 new prospects. And so here's just some math for you. If your average product is $1,000, that's $49,000 in additional sales. If you're a $2,500 product, it's $123,000. And if you're a $5,000 product, it's almost $250,000 in extra sales. That's just reaching out to 10 more people on a daily basis. Okay. If you want information on this lead generation system, I put my email there, Robert at B2B Sales Connections, more than happy to give you a copy of it. Okay. So what is it you need to do? When you're reaching out to people, you need to demonstrate an understanding of their business and their job. So back to Amy in HR, she had messages for directors of HR and she had messages for people in HR because there were two different problems they were running into. And so she messaged out what was happening in HR right now because of COVID. She also, asked them questions about their business. How is this impacting you right now? So she didn't ask generally how it's impacting the business. She would ask an HR person, how is COVID-19 impacting your employees today? And she got a lot of great feedback from there. And from that, she created an insight document based on the problems they were telling her. So if you go back to your clients and ask them about their problems, you can create insights about that. So again, back to you guys, Board of Trade, you're hearing from your audience what the problems are, and you're looking to do things that solves those problems to help them move forward. That's how you provide value. How do you communicate that value? Well, you guys do it through webinars. Is this not a piece of value for your members of Board of Trade right now? You send out emails to them. There are postings on their website. There are information sessions. All those things you're doing is how you're putting your value out. The problem is most people only do this. They talk about their product. This is my product. I make this. I build this. Here's the technical details about my product. And then the worst thing most people do is they only talk about their companies. And most marketing material, if you think about it, when you land, how many websites do you land on right now that the first thing they do when you land on the website is about us? We've been in business for 20 years. We're a team of 50 people. When they land on your website, the first thing they should see is how you help your client. What is it you do for your client? Once they read that, then they're going to determine, do I want to find out more information? If I do, then I'm going to go on to who you are and why this should be interesting to you. So this is really, really big. If everything you're doing, thinking about the understanding of your client is the first and foremost, right? So what can you do right now if you're in that jewelry business and you can't sell your jewelry? People aren't coming in. Maybe your store is even closed. So what are some of the back burner projects you can work on? Have you got a marketing project you were thinking about? Have you got a new product you were thinking about? What are the things you can do? Have you gone to an online service? Can people buy things from you offline? Have you built up your social media? Have you optimized your SEO? There are people out there that can help you do these things right now. If you're not a website development company and an SEO company going crazy right now, or a cybersecurity company going crazy right now, you're not marketing right to your industry, because these are what people are looking for. Do a Google search right now on how to do SEO. And it was actually interesting. I was looking at Google Trends the other day. The number of people looking for information on SEO and social media was like, I think it was like 25 million searches a day. And March 15th, it went up to over 100 million searches, because all these companies now are sitting back and going, oh my God, I've got to be online and I haven't done it right. So now how do I do it? And so another one in my industry is lead generation. the number of people doing searches on lead generation up to March 13th was, you know, a consistent every, like, day in, day out. If you looked at the trend, it was just this flat line, you know, up a little bit, up a little bit. On March 15th, it was 5 times the number, and it stayed up high. So all these companies now that, you know, a few people were searching lead generation, 5 times as many people are now interested in lead generation for the business. Right? So go on to Google Trends and look at what are the trends in your industry, because if there are some, you need to know about them. All right? So then putting together a sequence. So if we're going to do emails, if you're going to use LinkedIn, you're going to send out a first message. It's not going to be a sales message. It's just going to be a connection request. Hey, it's Adam from the Clarington Board of Trade. If you're sending out an email message, it's as a member of the Clarington community or the Bowmanville community or the Durham region, I hope we can connect. Something as simple as that. No sales, no links, no hyperlinks, quick little message, 20, 25 words tops. But then what you do is you send out a second message after they've connected, and you offer them an insight. So again, if I was thinking for Adam, Adam could say, you know, thanks for connecting, Bob. The Clarington Board of Trade has put together a document called 10 Things You Need to Do Now to Survive the Next 90 Days. If you'd like a copy of it, let me know and I'll send across a copy to you. Right? So you're offering an insight based on the pain and the outcome that you can do in your industry. And then in that document, you anchor with a hyperlink back to a downloadable document of some sort. So this could be an in-depth article, it could be a book. Board of Trade, it might be even something like we're going to have an online networking event next week or in 2 weeks. Here's a link to sign up for it. Please join us as a guest. Right. If they do take that online offer, you then follow up with an email, have a phone call with them, and then that's where you qualify, is this a lead for my business? If they're not interested, you just continue to send them messages. Message 2 leads back to that first offer. Message 3 leads back to the offer. Message 4 leads back. And these messages in my company's sequence, we've got 16 messages. And how often do they get them? The first one they get a day after they accept my LinkedIn connection or they accept my first email message. The next message goes out 5 days later. Then I go on to a 2-week cycle. So if they're not responding, every 2 weeks they get something. How often, or so how long does that go on? It goes on until they unsubscribe or they put up their hand and say, I would like something you've got. I want to download it. And then the minute they do that, I pull them out of this marketing string and I talk to them directly. So Adam, if I sent you a first message, you didn't respond, and I send you a second message and a third message, and then finally on the fourth one, there was something in there that you went back and said, hey, that sounds like a good article Bob's written. I'm going to download it. And as soon as you download it, then I'm going to send you a follow-up saying, hi, Adam, I see you downloaded my report on 15 things you need to do now to continue your marketing through COVID-19. What are the challenges you're having, Adam? And I open up the door for the conversation. Right. Keep it going until they say no or they say yes. If they unsubscribe, they've said no. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. So a couple things in the first outreach: no selling. Subject lines must catch their attention. I already mentioned a bunch of these things. Again, I'll send you this if you want the full information. But I want to spend the last few minutes talking about awareness content. Right. So what's awareness content? So if you go back to that first document I talked about, sending out something, this is the one that Amy did in market research. She put together a document, 20 things every successful company knows about market research. Any company out there could do 5 things cybersecurity companies, 5 things you need to know about cybersecurity because of COVID-19 and being online. Or think about what you could do. 10 things every homeowner needs to know about selling their home in this time of crisis. So she creates this document, which she gives to anybody who's interested. And that in turn when they get into this document, it leads to this ebook that she had written about the exact same thing. But now to get the ebook, they have to give her their name and their email address, which puts them into a cycle. So Amy did this, and probably 100 plus people within the first week downloaded this market research piece of information. And out of the 100 that downloaded this, about 30% downloaded the greater ebook. Now, when they downloaded the ebook, she can actually look at who opens the ebook up using her tracking software. They don't know it's there, but if they open it, she can tell that. The people who opened it was very, very slim, but a lot of people saw the book and they reached out to her directly to ask for more information, and so that turned them into customers. So it's all about putting insights in front of clients. It's not selling. There's nothing in here that's salesy. It's all about the insights that you have in your marketplace to go forward. All right. So here's one that I did. I'll send this across. It'll be in the deck. It's called PASTA, Validate the Buyer and Close Sales Faster. It's a new insight document. And I send that out and people download it all the time, and then they'll come back and ask me questions about it. I put a couple of templates in here too. I've got a first email template. I'm not going to read them or anything because I'll send them to you if you want them. The second email message. But I want to talk for a minute about why they don't respond. Number one, if they don't respond, they're rejecting your message, not you. It's you didn't say anything interesting to them. I didn't get you. I don't want to have a date with you because I'm not seeing a connection. So it's up to you to create information that they're going to see as being valuable, right? You didn't include a clear and compelling call to action. Did you say, what's the next step I want you to take? If you downloaded this, I want you to download that. If you downloaded that, I want you to set up a strategy session, a phone call, whatever. You might have sent it to the wrong person. So if it's a larger company you're dealing with, you may need to send it to 3 or 4 different people within the company, right? If they didn't open your message, they didn't see any value, or maybe it went right into their spam folder. Right? There's all sorts of different reasons why they didn't see it. So don't worry about that, right? So what can you do if you're in leadership strategy, facilitate virtual sessions. If you're in finance, write articles about how to leverage if your company's over leverage, what can you do? How to reduce expenses, how to contain expenses, those sorts of things. I'm not going to go through these. I want you guys to you can read them on your own, but different industries, some different ideas I've thrown out there for you. Reassure everyone that you're doing things. If you've got a brick and mortar business, tell people that you're using hand sanitizer, your staff's using masks, your staff's wearing goggles and glasses, that you're doing extra cleaning of things. If you've got live events scheduled, change them to online events. Do Facebook Live, Instagram Live, webinars. If your employees are working remotely, provide them with the technology. Maybe they don't have a good internet connection. Pay for the upgrade to faster bandwidths for the next few months. There's all sorts of things you can do there, right? I want to show you quickly before I end up. This is a thing that I did I think it was about March 16th or March 17th. So I wrote an article called 3 Steps to Quickly Increase Sales in Any Industry. Published it on, I think it was March 15th, whatever the Monday, Tuesday was. Within 8 days, it had over 2,000 views. Big deal. But out of those 2,000 views, 17 people contacted me. From that article, 5 set up short phone meetings and 3 became clients, all within a week of talking to them. So that was just using an insight document to generate information. Nothing in there said, Bob Weese sales training, let me sell you something. It was all about what your company needs to do now to help yourself. And it turned into 3 sales quickly. And this isn't just happening in my industry, it's happening all over the place. I'm doing that one. It drives traffic to your website by putting these things up on Facebook and LinkedIn. They see what you've done. It drives them over to the website, and as well as making sure you got your social media links in there. I don't want to spend much time on that. You can read that. But whatever you do, it's got to become a system that you follow. So you got to use templates. You got to create a calendar of content. It's got to be that laser focused target on what you're doing. Your company page has to answer what's in for the client. And then make sure you're doing it once or twice every single week. And I'm going to go back to you, Adam, for questions and see where we stand.
All right, thanks, Bob. So first question. So for businesses that have been around for a long time, it might be hard, I guess, for them to quickly identify, what are their top three, things that they do for their clients. So what would you recommend for those types of businesses?
Pick the product line that is your top seller and think about what that does. So what is it? Why does your client buy the biggest product? So I'm sure in most businesses, the 80-20 rule, they may have 1,000 products, but there's a few very, very select products. So again, think about the Clarington board. If I were to ask you, what are the top 3 things that your clients use you for? What would you say, Adam, would be top 3 things? Networking?
Yeah, events, I would say connections, and maybe networking, sure.
Okay, and what about the discount programs that they can get as being a member? Is that a big piece of it, or is that a smaller piece of it?
I would say that's a smaller, more specific piece, yeah.
Okay, right. So then if you're thinking about that from your company, you're going to think about really focusing on what can you do to help with networking right now? What can you help with building the connections right now? So it's the same thing in manufacturing. And so one of my clients is a waste management company. They do waste management for restaurants. Well, guess what's happening in the waste management industry for restaurants right now? Not much.
Mm-hmm.
But who is using waste management going through the roof right now? Hospitals. So the hospitals that had 1 bin or 2 bins that were being picked up every 2 or 3 days now need to have medical grade pickups and destruction of their product, which means that sometimes it's incineration or it's proper handling of that. So their focus quickly went away from who cares about the restaurants that aren't buying from us right now. They've got a bin, it could sit there for 3 weeks before it fills up. We're going to move all those trucks to pick up from hospitals and from other facilities, essential services that are generating more waste than ever. So what is it you can do? And if you really sit down and think about it, you're probably going to find it in any industry. There's something else.
Perfect.
Okay, other one, go ahead.
So we had one here from Rudy. So I think he's just kind of carrying off from what you were just saying there, Bob. But he's just saying, can you add some insight adjustment for that idea to when we are selling a $100,000 residential product? So I guess, again, more of that B2C side as opposed to B2B.
Yeah, so on the residential side, thinking about, we had a pretty good windstorm down here last week. For those of you who don't know, I live in LA. That stands for Lower Ajax. And that windstorm that came through, there are a lot of houses here that had wind damage done to it. So I've seen roofing trucks in the area for the last 2 days. There's a need. They're working on that. It really depends if you're selling to consumers. Is it a product that they still need and you can still do? So what else could you do? Maybe you could still do work if it's outside work for companies. The weed man has been up and down the street a half a dozen times because they're not coming into your house. They're doing work outside. Can you do things that, how can you change your business to still serve part of your market?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, Bob, is just being able to pivot a bit to what services you're offering. So I've got a question. So I know we're talking a lot about getting new clients and prospects and analyzing leads. So how about maintaining those relationships with our current clients? I mean, I kind of always say it's easier to keep what you have than go get something new. So can you maybe give us some insight on that?
What they say, it costs 7 to 9 times more to find a new client than to keep an existing client. Mm-hmm. So same sort of thing. Can you do webinars that are based on specific facts and information for your clients? Can you push out information to help them? Maybe they're having trouble with shipping. Do you have contacts in certain areas? What are the things you can do to help your current clients? And they're the best ones for sure. So back to my case, I went to all my current clients first and said, this is what we were going to do. Would you like to pivot and do this instead? And 5 out of 6 said yes, and the 6th one is still thinking about it. I'm sure they're going to do that. So how can you impact your current client and bring value to them? So Ursula, we talked about her being in the banking sector. You go back to all your current clients and say, what are your challenges right now? Are you able to make payroll? Can you make rent? Do you have big mortgages or loan payments coming due? Here's what I can do to help you. And so reaching out to them proactively is going to be a big piece of it. If they step back and say, I can't do it now, I don't want to think about it doing now, then you just say, that's fine. Just to let you know, I'm here for you, and I'd be happy to send you some information about some of the things you should be looking at or thinking about in this industry.
Okay, so I guess Ursula's just responding. I guess she's saying, should you still be sending information weekly, bi-weekly to those clients who indicated they like what we have to offer, but said they will reach out when they're ready to make the change?
I would think, Ursula, that I might pull it back just a little bit. If you know there's a deadline, so let's say it's a loan that's coming due in 60 days or 90 days, then you're going to make your call based on what that outcome is. If it's someone who's just thinking for the future, then I would send them less information. I still want to keep top of mind. And when in doubt, ask. Just, hey, I've been sending you this information. I don't want to overwhelm you. Good. People who are at home right now and aren't working because their jobs have just shut right down, they're spending more time reading and doing stuff online than anybody. People like you and myself that are really busy at this time, we're spending all our time focusing with our clients. So it's going to depend on where you fit.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we're getting close for time, but maybe I'll wrap up with just kind of one last question here. So what would be your number one tip for small businesses that are facing this COVID crisis right now?
Keep putting your name in front of your clients, in front of your prospects, so that they know you're there and you're there to help them. You're prepared, and you're prepared to do whatever it takes to help them move forward. So don't go dark. Don't forget about we've got now that we watch the news once a day. We don't need to hear the same news story 25 times about all the death and destruction and everything that's happening. We want to take a piece of it and then focus on what we can do to move forward.
Perfect.
I got a quick wrap up then. I'm just going to pull this, locked on. Anybody wants to get a hold of me, there's my information. I'll just pop it up on the screen there. Robert at B2B Sales Connection. More than happy to send you out a copy of this. Or if you want information more on the 246 lead generation system, just let me know and I would be happy to. Adam, Sheila, Tanya, the whole gang there, thank you very much for inviting me onto this. Anybody wants to just send me an email about if they got another question we didn't get answered, send me an email about it and we can have a quick chat for sure.
All right, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to try and unmute Sheila here. It's a little fidgety, so I'm having a little bit of problems. So sorry, Sheila. But before we wrap up, I just want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you, Bob, for taking time. I think this is one of the most important issues that I think businesses are facing right now is the idea to sell product and work with their clients and get new leads. I just also want to remind everyone that we are hosting a lot of these types of events, and to access those, you can go to CBOT.ca. We actually have one next week that I think carries off of what Bob was saying with Lasha, who does a lot of social media work. So I think that's a good kind of carry off from what Bob was saying today. So I just want to thank you again, Bob. And sorry, Sheila, I'm a little fidgety, so I can't unmute you. But for everyone else, just enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Sheila.
Perfect. Thanks, Bob. And Bob, we'll put this on. Oh, he's good.